The following program is an opinion program. The opinions expressed by the hosts and guests of this program are not the opinions of the management, staff, and advertisers of this station. Please direct all criticism, concern, and adulation to the hosts of this program.
Welcome to Alabama Politics. This week, I am Dale Jackson. I'm a radio talk show host. You can hear my shows Monday through Friday, 5 to 9 a.m. on WVNN in Huntsville and in Birmingham, the fastest hour of radio you're going to hear anywhere on Talk 99.5 from 10 until 11. With me, as always, Yaffe from the Yaffe program and the Yaffe Hour in North Alabama. You can hear him on WVNN from 9 to 11 and on the UMP from 1 until 2. So don't miss any of those great radio shows. You're going to hear a lot from us here. Also, Will Hampson will be with us. He is a communications employee for Nancy Mace, the congresswoman from South Carolina, but he lives in Alabama. We'll talk with him about what's going on there in Washington, D.C. and what might happen in 2024. We got a lot to get into, so let's go ahead and get right to it. Let's get to the 2-minute warning. I should also mention that Mecca's not here. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into it. We have seen a lot of this talk about 2024 and 2023. When we started the year, there was some question. Would Ron DeSantis be the guy? Was it going to be Donald Trump? Would Joe Biden still be alive? All these things were asked, and I think they've all been answered. And the answer, I think, goes no, yes, and yes. So it looks like we are looking at a rematch of 2020 and 2023. I don't think did anything to change it, just solidified it. But I think this year has meant a lot for the 2024 race. You have seen Joe Biden's favorability continue to go down, and Donald Trump look like the other guy in a race that looks like it might be about Joe Biden. Yaffe, this year has been very different. We went back and looked at December of 2022 or January of 2023. Totally different layout. Even though the players seem about the same, the layout seems very different, does it not?
Well, you and I were both pretty optimistic about Ron DeSantis, and then he comes in and really does nothing.
Yep.
Not all of it's his fault.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done some.
He ran a fine
things.
campaign.
Yeah, you know what you would expect. It's just Trump is a once-in-a-lifetime figure. I've just come to that conclusion. He's going to win. We just need to deal with that reality.
You're seeing a lot on the Democratic side talking about Joe Biden and whether or not he is inevitable. I think he obviously is. I've always said this: if he's alive, he's running. Okay, I mean they think he can beat Donald Trump. They're probably right, but that's just my opinion. I'll be voting for Donald Trump in that particular race. But you're probably right about that. But the voices are getting louder and louder and louder against him. Does that go away when the primary ends?
Yes.
So this is just primary noise and everyone comes back home at the end.
Yes. Well, they're worried, and rightfully so. You look at the polls right now; they're not good for Biden. But that's gonna change. Things will change.
If the election were today, who wins? Trump or Biden? Trump or Biden?
Trump,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. The election is not today, by the way. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about gambling. Dead or alive? We're hearing the famous words, a clean bill, a clean gambling bill. Yes, this always is coming up when we talk about stuff like this in the Alabama legislature. What does a clean gambling bill look like? Well, if you ask me, I think a clean gambling bill is one that says open up the doors and let people do whatever they want to do. Legalize it and then go out and let the free market win. Nobody's thinking about that. That's a dead issue. But there are some issues where regulation comes into play. There's a bunch of issues about illegal gambling operators all over the state. I believe 73 or so in Jefferson County alone, one in every single county. The conversation on gambling is here, but I don't think the conversation on gambling is very clear. But gambling is alive, in my opinion. Yaffe, I'll ask you, and then you can tell me what you think the state of play is here. Is gambling dead or alive?
Barely alive, maybe as alive as Joe Biden is. We were talking about that earlier because I've just heard so many different things. And we hear this every year, all these different things. And that tells me at the end of the day, there's going to be too many disagreements. And it's just not going to work out.
I mean, I've seen more people moving on this and talking about this in a way that it seems like there is a possibility. Democrats have been oddly quiet. You're not hearing anything about bingo and all these other things. They're just laying kind of low. And I think it's smart on their part because Republicans have to figure it out. It's a Republican decision. The Republicans are going to decide, and the Democrats decide if they get on or off. We'll talk about school choice here in just a minute. That kept coming up. Medicaid expansion.
That's why Democrats are quiet.
So they're letting. I was going to ask you this: are they just letting Republicans tell them what it's going to look like, and them say, "Okay, we can get on board with that, but here's where we want the money to go"?
Yeah, Medicaid expansion is a bigger priority for them. So they're kind of like, if we can pass a gambling bill, add Medicaid expansion, then they'll be on board. But like I said, there's just too many special interests involved. I just feel like it's not going to happen this year. Even if they make a step in that direction, I don't know if it'll happen completely.
Becca hates this comment, but I'm going to just say it to you and get your thoughts on it real quick. She's not here, so if you feel safe,
we can do what we want.
feel safe. I've always argued that it's about the legislature. You got to get out of the legislature, then the people will say, sure, whatever. If the money went to Hamas, would it still pass a vote of the people? Because it
might get more support nowadays.
Okay.
If you look at what's going on in our country. I mean, I don't know if it would pass that way, but it would probably pass if it goes to something.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's talk about the city of Decatur here for a second and their inept, pathetic, incompetent, ridiculous, incompetent, pathetic, incompetent mayor, Tab Bowling. Yes, some of those I said multiple times because that's how bad he has been on all of this. Now we have what we've known for a while. Aaliyah has finished their report with the Stephen Perkins shooting. It is bad. The reaction has been bad, and we have to figure out what actually happened out there. We've had memorials that should never have stayed up at City Hall come down and then back up. Then we had signs backing the police. I got accused personally of putting the signs up myself or taking signs down. I did none of those things. I just planted the seeds and let them grow. I had nothing to do with it. But let me ask you this question, Yavi. If the city had handled this worse, what would it have looked like? And I'm going to remove one option off the table. Tab Bowling pulling the trigger himself. Other than that, is there anything that could have made this situation and their handling in the aftermath of the tragic death of Steve Perkins, could they have handled it any worse?
I mean, maybe if they kneeled with the protesters outside or something like that, that might have been worse. But the fact is, they could have put out a lot more information at the beginning, maybe release the body cam footage so we have the complete truth, and then that would have quelled possibly a lot of this. We would have had some answers. But that's the problem. We don't seem to have all the answers here. They're being very quiet about everything, so it just fuels a lot of speculation, a lot of protest.
Speculation ran wild, and we don't know what speculation was true and what speculation was not. And that's why from the very beginning, at first I was very much like, guys, we don't know anything. This is what is being said. The city has handled this bad from the beginning on all ends. And then they just allowed it to get out of their control. They show up at city council meetings, people would just yell at them for the entire meetings. And then the mayor said, I'm going to resign. And you've had all this mess. They've let citizens take over press conferences and things like this. The whole thing has been just an absolute embarrassment. And Tab Bowling resigning halfway through, I think just basically said, okay, this is how we're going to handle this, and you guys can basically do whatever you want, and we'll allow it. Now, when the facts come out, they have such a mess. I don't think anyone's going to believe anything that's said anyway, one way or the other. And they can't release the body cam footage from the beginning, but they should have said, we're going to. Here's what the law says. Here's what's going to happen. And they should have cracked down when things got out of control.
Transparency would have helped.
Transparency and consistent behavior from the city on what they were going to allow and not allow, as opposed to will allow anything that you yell about. I mean, which is what they decide. Pathetic behavior.
And only on one side, too.
Yeah, but don't worry. Don't email the mayor of Decatur. He's got his away message on until January 2nd. Great job, Mayor Bowling. All right, let's continue on. There's a special election in District 9. Marshall County in that area. Clay Schofield, he was the Senate Majority Leader. Off he goes to work for the BCA. A new special election is in place. Wes Kitchen and Brock Colvin, two members from the state house, are there, and Stacey Lee George, who has run for every single thing possible in North Alabama. The AEA is now involved. They have sent out flyers for Wes Kitchen, and there's a lot of questions about whether that support pushes him over the line. Now, the question I have is there a backlash to that? I'll give my answer to that here in a second, but a Republican primary, a Republican's going to hold this seat in the state Senate. You got two state representatives. You got the AEA backing one of them. Money's following that backing. Is that a net positive or a net negative in a Republican primary?
That's a good question because it should be a net negative, right? But what we've seen in recent years is a lot of money from the AEA going to these Republicans, and it seems to help them. They seem to do pretty well. They use the money, they get the advertising, they get the name recognition, and they win. So in terms of what it should be and what it actually is going to be, I think are two different things.
A special election is going to have generally low turnout. And they've targeted the AEA members in this district with flyers that say the AEA supports this person. That can activate those people. You're going to have a couple thousand people vote in this election. And if you can get a good number of people who are maybe about the whole thing out voting for your guy, definitely the case. Now, the election is January 9th. So if Brock Colvin's going to push back on this, he's going to have to push back on it very quickly. And he's going to have to say school choice, school choice, school choice. The AEA wants to stop this. And I think this is a bit of a test. If the AA is successful here, all these other Republicans are going to be on their heels. And I think it deals a big blow to school choice. Is that putting too much weight on this election?
Maybe. I think a lot of it depends on how Brock Colvin responds.
Okay.
Like you said, if he has a good response and uses his money effectively, maybe he can be successful.
At the end of after the new year, we will see this thing play itself out, and we will see where all of it goes, because they only have like a week or so after the new year to get this done. So we'll follow that race, and we'll talk about it a little next week as well. Yavi, hold on, stand by for a second. Will Hampson will be with us. He works in D.C. We'll talk a little bit with him about what's been going on up there. This is Alabama Politics This Week.
You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com. You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for University Kia. This is my son Grant. He's a busy guy. Chess, piano, basketball, wrestling, baseball, you name it. There's probably some stuff that I missed that my wife will be mad about, but here's the thing. It's important to have reliable transportation. And my friends at University Kia, they take great care of me. I've been driving Sportages my entire life. My wife drives a Telluride now, and it is the perfect vehicle for the busy family. Folks, University Kia, let them take care of you like they've taken care of my family. That's University Kia. Learn more at universitykia.com.
Tom, Grant and Dale Jackson sent you.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, significantly lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and have seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for a CGM today. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances cover continuous glucose monitors, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the CGM Health Hotline now.
Well, welcome back to Alabama Politics This Week. I am Dale Jackson, filling in for Mecca Music. Is Yaffe, and we've got a great guest today. He's a communications staffer on Capitol Hill, Will Hampson. Will joins us, and we'll talk with him about a couple of things going on there in Washington, D.C., but I want to connect those things to Alabama here real quick first. Will, let's talk about the connection between District 1, the changes we've seen there, District 2, these congressional districts that have been redrawn. You'll have 2 Republican congressmen going at it in the 1st district, a whole bunch of people going at it in the 2nd district on the Democrat and Republican side. Is that getting any play in Washington, D.C.? Because the idea was once they redraw those districts, it would make it a Democratic seat and pick up a Democratic member right there pretty easily, changing the numbers game just a bit right in 2024. What's the takeaway on Capitol Hill in that situation with those 2 congressional races?
Yeah, I think any time that you have 2 pretty well-liked incumbent Republicans who now have to run against each other, it becomes difficult for a lot of people in Washington. Obviously, I think the stakes as far as they're being viewed in Washington is Freedom Caucus versus more mainstream moderate Republican. You've got Jerry Carl, who was a close ally of Kevin McCarthy, and then you had Barry Moore, who is a Freedom Caucus rabble-rouser. I think you saw it this past week with the vote over the NDAA, where Barry Moore decided that he was not going to vote for the NDAA because of extensions of FISA and some other, kind of red meat issues. And Jerry Carl had no issue voting for it because of the money it brought to Alabama. And so when Washington is looking at this race, I think it's kind of another Freedom Caucus versus Main Street, and kind of some intrigue in seeing who will come out on top in that race.
You've worked on a lot of congressional campaigns, Senate campaigns, and the like. The NDAA stuff, the smart set in conservative politics in Alabama are kind of like, oh, well, the NDAA is very important and everyone will think of me talking about it. And people like me are like, 90% of people don't even know what the NDAA is. So I'm not convinced that that's going to move too many people. Who's right, the smart people or Dale Jackson?
Here's where I think this matters, Dale, is I think it signals what lane you're trying to take, particularly in this AL1 race. I think it's very clear that Barry Moore thinks that he can get grassroots support, he can get small dollar donors, and he can get some people fired up that feel like there is weaponization of the government going on. Obviously, the FISA program was used against Donald Trump. It's been extended now, and so I think that's clearly the lane that Barry Moore wants to go. And then on the flip side, you've got Jerry Carl, who I think is kind of signaling to some of those bigger money people, some of the lobbyists, some of the donors, some of the special interest groups that, hey, guys, I'm going to be a little bit more of a steady hand and look out for you guys. And so that's, I think, the importance here is not necessarily the vote in and of itself, but kind of what it represents and signals to some of those different groups.
Well, when you look at the lanes like you were talking about, do you think one has the edge over the other? I would personally think Jerry Carl has an advantage already because it's mostly his older district, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look just historically, right, those that outspend their opponents win. And you might say, well, obviously, but I mean, Tommy Tuberville outspent Jeff Sessions, I think at the end of the day, nearly 5-1. Katie Britt outspent Mo Brooks, I think it was 5 or 6-1. And so, obviously there's a lot of advantages to having the grassroots support. But at the end of the day, a lot of these races do come down to the resources that you're able to have. And so making sure that, again, not necessarily saying anyone is selling out or anything like that, but there's definitely some winks and nods to some of those special interest groups that, look, guys, we'll be a little bit more steady hand than my opponent, and so you should make sure that I get, I'm well financed in my run here.
What do you make of the battle royal taking place in District 2? And make this quick. Just what do you make of all the faces and names in there?
I think it's an open seat. It's a new deal. Everyone thinks that they've got a shot at it, and no one really knows. I mean, we've kind of been told what the district looks like per se, but I think until votes are cast, you really don't know what the district is going to boil down to, and so everyone feels like they can kind of take their shot here.
I was shocked to see in a poll this week, Anthony Daniels polling about third at like 8% on the Democratic side. That kind of surprised me. Let's move past that. Staying in Washington, D.C., though, we've had 2 United States senators there making a lot of waves. You have Tommy Tuberville in the middle of the Donnybrook with Chuck Schumer. He's having those battles over the military promotions and things of that nature on the abortion side. You've got Katie Britt being mentioned by some people as a potential vice presidential nominee, making friends with people like John Fetterman and being seen as someone who is definitely playing the Shelby role, where you make friends with people on the other side of the aisle, you get stuff done. What's the perception in Washington, D.C. of these individuals? Is it just as I laid it out, or is there something else?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the old adage of you've got submarines and you've got battleships, and Tommy Tuberville is going to storm ahead out front there like a battleship, and Katie Britt, I think, is a little bit more under the water as a submarine. She's very smart. I think, obviously, she has all the makings to be a star in the Republican Party. But she definitely is more willing to play the game than a Tommy Tuberville is. And so, again, there are serious advantages to both of those. Look at the amount of money that Katie Britt's going to be able to bring in as an appropriator. Tommy Tuberville is not going to be able to do that. He doesn't have those same relationships. But, Katie Britt is very good at picking up on the issues such as the open southern border and kind of signaling that she's also willing to show her grassroots voters that she gets the big issues as well.
Earlier you were talking about the NDAA vote and how Barry Moore was the one Republican in Alabama to kind of vote against it. Were you surprised Tuberville voted for it? Because it had some things he was originally pretty strongly against. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was really surprised. The House version of the NDAA took out the policy that Tuberville had been holding up promotions over. And so when that bill left the House, it did not have an extension of taxpayer funding for travel for military abortions. When the version got to the Senate, Chuck Schumer obviously got rid of that. And so the version that Tommy Tuberville voted for codified the policy that he had fought for 10 months against. And so just on that fact alone, I think it was a little more surprising. And then you also have Tuberville, who's shown a little more inclination to go with some of the more Freedom Caucus senators like Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Mike Lee, but obviously was on the opposite side of them on this NDAA vote. But I think that goes to show you just how much support for a lot of these military bases, particularly in the state, that there was in this bill that made Tuberville feel like something that was that important to him was worth voting against.
You've been on the House side. You've been dealing with Republicans, conservative Republicans, Freedom Caucus members and stuff. Katie Britt is a vice presidential nominee. I mean, if we're doing demographics and stuff like this, she's the perfect suburban woman. She could get a lot of people, I think, to come over. Nikki Haley is seen the same way, Kristi Noem, Kim Reynolds, the governors, and stuff like that. Donald Trump's talking about people like Carrie Lake and things like this. What is the perception of Katie Britt as a potential vice presidential nominee?
I think people think it's a little too soon. I think they believe that she will one day be in that conversation 100%. I think it's apparent what she brings to the table. She's young, she's vibrant, she's well-spoken, good family, the optics are great. But I do think that people believe that her national stock is not right now at the same level of a Kristi Noem or an Elise Stefanik or some of the Nikki Haley, some of these other names that are being floated. And so I think a lot of people really think that Katie Britt will absolutely get there, but that this is probably not the right time for her right now as things stand today.
Last question for you. Like I said, you were there on Capitol Hill when all of this was going down. You've seen a Republican primary play out, guys like Chip Roy getting absolutely destroyed by Donald Trump's internet machine. But here's a simple fact. If Ron DeSantis was going to make a move on Donald Trump, it was going to require people in the House to get behind him, Freedom Caucus members, etc. None of that happened. He got none of the institutional support, none of the grassroots support. And when you get neither of those, you get absolutely nowhere. Why didn't more people in the House or in Washington, D.C. say, okay, Ron DeSantis might be a good number two to Donald Trump, or might be a good person, not number two, excuse me, a good one to take this position from Donald Trump? How come we didn't see any of that?
Because I don't think anyone in Washington ever believed that this was a competitive primary. And I think that there were a lot of people, particularly Freedom Caucus types. People forget that DeSantis was a founding member of the Freedom Caucus. He was one of the most conservative members in his time on Capitol Hill. I think a lot of them wanted to support him. But by the time he got in the race, he was down 20, 30 points in most national polls, and obviously has only lost ground since then. I think a lot of them understand that they want to be able to maneuver in a Trump presidency if he wins again in 2024. And so why would you kind of waste your shot and your political capital on a guy that never really got any traction?
Agreed. Thank you very much, Will Hampson. We appreciate you being here and talking with us. Yaffee, real quick, I want to ask you this question. DeSantis' plan was to get in the race by hugging Donald Trump and hoping that would help him leapfrog him. That can't work. Is that notion just destroyed here?
Yes.
Not that it made any sense in the first place.
Unless your real goal was to be vice president, but then you'd have to keep hugging him.
Yeah, so. Like Vivek Ramaswamy or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
All right, fair enough. Yaffee, thank you very much for filling in for Mecca. You did an okay job, but the show will get better because Yaffee's leaving, but I'll still be here with the party shot. Stay tuned.
Want fun, safe, intelligent fitness programming? Want to build muscular strength, cardiovascular endurance, drastically improve range of motion and mobility, and learn proper nutrition to fuel your life with energy and emotional health? Well, come find out why Iron Tribe Fitness is ranked one of the top 5 fitness programs in America. Come find out why personal training and intentionally working on your current movement patterns individually is not only important, it's just another core value that separates Iron Tribe Fitness from other fitness facilities.
To learn how to get your 2-week free pass, go to irontribefitness.com.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for University Kia, and this is my son Grant. He's a busy guy. Chess, piano, basketball, wrestling, baseball, you name it. There's probably some stuff that I missed that my wife will be mad about, but here's the thing. It's important to have reliable transportation. My friends at University Kia, they take great care of me. I've been driving Sportages my entire life. My wife drives a Telluride now, and it is the perfect vehicle for the busy family. Folks, University Kia, let them take care of you like they've taken care of my family. That's University Kia. Learn more at universitykia.com.
Tom, Grant and Dale Jackson sent you.
Want fun, safe, intelligent fitness programming? Want to build muscular strength, cardiovascular endurance, drastically improve range of motion and mobility, and learn proper nutrition to fuel your life with energy and emotional health? Well, come find out why Iron Tribe Fitness is ranked one of the top 5 fitness programs in America. Come find out why personal training and intentionally working on your current movement patterns individually is not only important, it's just another core value that separates Iron Tribe Fitness from other fitness facilities.
To learn how to get your 2-week free pass, go to irontribefitness.com.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Welcome back to Alabama Politics This Week. I am Dale Jackson, and we'll get to the party shot here in just a couple of seconds. But first, let me remind you about this. Go to yellowhammernews.com. Sign up for my email blast, the 7 things you should be talking about today and all through the new year. Just like in the old year, you'll get those 7 things you should be talking about every single day. You'll know exactly what's going on. I've done all the work for you. All you have to do is read it. Go to yellowhammernews.com. Sign up for that. Check out all the other stuff you can read there as well, including columns by Yaffee. You can check that out too. So do not miss it, yellowhammernews.com. But for right now, let's go ahead and get to the party shot. My party shot this week is directed at everyone that spent the last week talking about ridiculous things, like suggesting that maybe Jesus was Palestinian and things like this. Now, we can get into the factual side of this if we want, and there's very little to go over there. But let me ask you this. Do you ever see this on any other holiday? Do you ever see this in any other religion where they take a holiday and on the days of those holidays, they start trying to break down whether or not any of it is true? And they go through all this rigmarole in order to twist themselves into knots, in order to have conversations, in order to downplay the reason for the season. Let people have their beliefs and enjoy what they want to believe. Of course, Jesus was not a Palestinian. That's a ridiculous premise all the way around, but we're going to do this anyway. It's unnecessary. It's unhelpful. Not a single human being is ever moved by any of those things. It's like standing in the middle of the freeway on the busiest travel day of the year. If you're going to do those things, people will listen to you because they have no choice. You will not, however, move a single human being. You got to be more persuasive if you're going to actually try to do these things. This is not the way to do this, and trust me, I understand. Being the loudest doesn't always mean you're the most listened to person. I get that part. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening across the entire state of Alabama. Have a happy new year, and we will talk to you soon.